Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Eric Hall. I am the product manager for BenchPress. And this webinar is intended to provide you with an overview of BenchPress Unlimited, HighWire's new submission solution for scholarly journals. In this webinar, I will introduce you to BenchPress Unlimited. I'll walk you through our simple, intuitive design, explain our pricing philosophy, and share examples of how BenchPress can be customized to fit your journal's changing needs. We have allocated about 5 minutes at the end of the webinar for questions. Please send your questions via the GoToWebinar controls. You'll notice that there's a question panel in the GoToWebinar widget. And I'll do my best to answer as many as I can before we run out of time. And I will answer offline any of those I'm not able to respond to during the webinar. BenchPress Unlimited was designed for journal publishers looking for a simple, intuitive submission system at a low, predictable price that can easily adapt as your publishing program evolves. It is the product of extensive user feedback and our 17 years experience designing, building, and supporting editorial workflow solutions for scholarly publishers. So I'm going to break away from the presentation at this time to our demo site to show you our simple, intuitive design. And that begins with our login screen. So we have one login for all users and all roles. We provide clear journal branding with a unique URL for each of our submission sites. Users can sign in with their username and password, or if they choose, they can sign in with their ORCID, like this. So you'll notice here that I am signed in as Andy Author. Thanks to the feedback from our current users, we're very proud to say that BenchPress Unlimited is designed by users for users. There really isn't any element within the BenchPress Unlimited design that has not been vetted and tested by our existing users. Our pages feature clean, modern design with very few buttons, links, and text boxes that can slow a user's progress through the system. We've left ample header and footer space to optimize publisher and journal branding. And we've carefully organized our navigation bar to get users to where they need to go in just 1 or 2 clicks. Our queue-based architecture enables users to quickly identify what needs their attention. And this is particularly helpful for journal staff who may have multiple queues in their area. I'm going to sign in as a staff person to give you a look at that perspective. So I'm now signed in as Sally, staff person. We've positioned common actions and options at the top of the page for ease of use, followed by the queue summary for journal staff. Each queue represents a step on the critical path from submission to decision in which an action must be taken. Queues can be configured to fit your journal's workflow, and our design focuses attention on just those queues requiring attention. So you'll notice that here are the queues, each representing a major phase in the editorial process. And the number next to each queue indicates the number of manuscripts in that queue. And you'll notice at the moment, we're only displaying those queues in which there are manuscripts requiring attention. However, a user can click this queue toggle at the top here to view all the queues, even those that do not have manuscripts in them. Our architecture also allows users to quickly differentiate between manuscripts in a queue. So I'm going to show you by navigating to our soliciting reviewers queue. And I can navigate to any one of the manuscripts in this queue through this drop down here. And you'll notice at the top is all the information related to this manuscript. We also allow for banners to differentiate from manuscripts in a queue. You'll notice the user has the option to act on this single manuscript, or they can take batch actions using this button here and act on all manuscripts in the soliciting reviewers queue. BenchPress Unlimited was designed to provide just the critical features and functionality you would expect from a modern submission system without a lot of peripheral tools and services that can overwhelm users, slow down the user experience, and can often drive up the price of maintaining the system. I will now log back in as Andy Author to show you just a few of our standard features. We have incorporated automation and responsive design to provide an accelerated article submission process. And to show you that, I'm going to move to a submission already in progress. I'm going to click Continue Submission. And right away, you'll notice the signposting here on the left. This is really designed to show users the steps in the submission process and to orient them within those steps. And we do this through this submission progress bar up here. You'll notice that those steps that have been completed are ticked off, and you can clearly see those that have yet to be completed. I'm going to navigate to our keyword picker to show you a few of the automations we put in place to accelerate the submission process. So oftentimes when authors are asked to select keywords, they're presented with very long lists or a series of dropdowns. What we've done instead is we allow users to simply type in a term, and without even completing the term, they can see all of those terms related to what they've typed into the text box, and they can select that keyword like that. If they're not sure of their keywords, they can also go to the full list, which you can see over here. And they can select their terms alphabetically and just go through and select the keywords that are relevant to their manuscript. These fixed keywords can be whatever the publisher wants them to be, depending on their taxonomy and policies. We've also made it easy for authors to enter their author lists through our sophisticated author grid. So there's a couple of ways they can do this. The first way is to just simply click this button here, add an author, and they can choose, they can fill out all the required fields. These required fields can be designated by the publisher and are often very specific to the journal. A corresponding author can enter ORCIDs on behalf of their co-authors. Corresponding authors that are also authors on the paper can easily add themselves as an author by clicking this button up here, I am this author. You'll notice I got an error message there because Andy Author, who I am signed in as, is already in the author grid, and we can see him here. Another thing we've done to account for those papers that have really long author lists is to allow for bulk upload. And that can be done by clicking this button here. Users simply need to download the very simple template. They can add all of their author details to that template and then upload that author list. And when they're done, those authors will appear in the author grid here. You'll notice a few icons next to each of the authors in the author grid. Probably the most important is this drag and drop icon here. This allows corresponding authors to very quickly reorder their author list, and you'll notice that that order number changes as I do this. And this just makes it really easy for them to change the sequence of authors. This is how the authors will appear in the published manuscript. Corresponding authors can also click this pencil icon here to make quick changes to information they have previously entered. And of course, delete authors from the author grid. Now, obviously, the most important process for most authors is submitting your manuscript. And we've also made this easy through drag and drop file upload. So I'll navigate to the Manuscript Files step of the submission process. I'm going to minimize the screen to get a look at my materials. And you'll see that I can quickly just drag and drop my manuscript into the manuscript box, and it immediately populates in my list of manuscript files. I can also add figures, and I can submit supplementary data like Excel spreadsheets. We also give users the ability to label each of these ancillary files. So they're clearly recognized throughout the submission process. Like authors, reviewers are also a very precious commodity for any journal. So we have incorporated a rapid review process to make the best use of their time. I will now log in as a reviewer to show you a few elements of this process. So you'll see I'm now logged in as Robert Reviewer. And when I go to my reviewer area, you can see that I have 5 active reviews. We've made it really easy for reviewers to simply click a link in the email invitation that they receive. They will be taken immediately to the BenchPress site where they can accept that request to review. And then once they've accepted that request for review, they can quickly go in and contribute their review by clicking this button here, Edit, Submit, Review. You'll notice on this page, we've given reviewers access to the full PDF of the manuscript, an abstract of the manuscript, and we've also provided toll-free reference linking so that reviewers can quickly move from the references in the manuscript to the actual published article. And this helps reviewers verify that each of the references are relevant and belong with this manuscript. Reviewers can then indicate their recommendation here, provide confidential comments for the editorial staff, and provide their comments for authors. These comments can be entered in this text box like so, or if they have recorded their comments in a separate file, they can upload those comments here. I'm now going to log in as a journal staff member just to show you a few things we've done to make BenchPress a critical tool in any editorial workflow. So for journal staff, we have built in several tools for easy workflow management. The first of those is upcoming reminders and events. This is a place that some staff people will go to when they start their day. And it's useful because it helps them understand, if I click on View Today's Reminders and Events, exactly what events are taking place that day. And this can help staff people really sort of focus their time on those manuscripts that are requiring action for each day. We also provide HTML email templates. We allow for unlimited HTML email templates. They can be triggered and associated with any action in the system, and I'll show you what they look like. This is an email template that's scheduled to go out after a certain number of days have elapsed when a reviewer has accepted the request to review, but has not yet submitted their review. And you'll notice that it's triggered by a send for re-review, and that happens at 28 days after that manuscript has moved into that queue. And I can quickly see the message in that email template. And by clicking edit, I can make changes to that email template. Now, this HTML interface is quite helpful for journal staff because it allows you to embed images such as journal branding so that users know it's coming from a trusted source. Journal staff people can also embed links within that message. So for example, if they want to provide a link to author guidelines, reviewer guidelines, other material that may be on separate pages in other domains. And to emphasize particular text or instructions in the correspondence, users can bold, italicize, and underline any text within the text box. Another thing we've done for staff people is allowed for proxy access, and I'll show you what this looks like. So I'm going to go to the soliciting reviewers page again, queue, and I'm just going to page down in this list of manuscripts to a reviewer. And here are reviewer identities here. Now, as a staff person, you may have an occasion in which you need to move papers through the process on behalf of another user, and Proxy Access allows them to do that. By simply clicking on any other user, I'm given the option to log in as a proxy for Robert Reviewer. And when I do that, I'm given this notification bar at the top to remind me that I'm acting on behalf of Robert Reviewer so I don't forget. And I can quickly go in and take action on behalf of Robert Reviewer in the proxy mode. And last but not least, we have provided some very sophisticated reporting. Every BenchPress site comes with 12 standard reports around the most important domains: general turnaround time, reviewers, editors, manuscripts, keywords, and people. However, on occasion, journal staff people may come across data that they can't find in the standard report or is not displayed in the way they need it to be displayed. And so we have provided ad hoc data reporting and exports for that purpose. What this allows users to do is indicate what data points they're interested in, define the criteria or range of those data points, and select fields to display. Every ad hoc report can be set up and saved so that users can come back to it at future dates. I hope this demo portion of the webinar was helpful. I'll provide some contact details at the end for those who are interested in taking a deeper dive into all that BenchPress can provide. But for now, I'm just going to go back to my slides quickly to touch on a few more points. BenchPress Unlimited is a very fast and stable system. We have an average uptime of 99.97% and page load speeds of well under half a second. Our sites and architecture is backed up by our experienced team of support staff and site developers in the US and the UK. With BenchPress Unlimited, each question or change request we get from our customers goes directly to a trained support person who can quickly answer the question or make the change. There's no gatekeeping or delegating to third parties. BenchPress users usually receive a rapid response within minutes and never longer than 48 hours after submitting a case. All cases are tracked, so you always know the status of your request and nothing ever falls through the cracks. Our pricing is structured to provide peace of mind and encourage growth in your publishing program. Many submission systems charge more as your submissions increase, creating a barrier for growth. BenchPress Unlimited charges one flat rate for the term of your subscription that will not go up as your submissions increase. There are no upfront build costs or hidden overage fees that can constrain growth or result in unbudgeted costs. There's just one rate. Our pricing is predictable, which makes it easy for you to budget for this critical resource. For a small journal with a long-term subscription with HighWire, this rate can be as little as $215 a month. BenchPress Unlimited's simple design is the most flexible architecture. Behind BenchPress Unlimited's simple design is the most flexible architecture in the industry. We understand that today's journals need to be adaptable to the ever-changing needs of the scholarly community. Our platform is extensible, allowing you to quickly make changes to your workflow or requirements, or bolt on new tools and services as you need them. Our experienced team of developers can configure your site to match your workflow or reconfigure your site to incorporate changes, such as new manuscript types like research articles, clinical reviews, case studies, new submission requirements, data deposit, conflict of interest statements. We can change your peer review requirements and methods. We can incorporate checklists for reviewers, and we can change your methodology from single blind to double blind, or perhaps you want to experiment with open peer review. We can configure that as well. And finally, new processes that you might want to incorporate in your workflow, such as image analysis or statistical review. Those are things that we can handle in site configuration. Here is a pretty standard workflow. You'll notice there's an initial submission, and then the manuscript goes into an editorial workflow, goes out for review, comes back into the editorial workflow where a decision is reached. Acceptance typically moves the manuscript into a post-acceptance phase that can include these steps, although all of these steps can be configured within BenchPress to match your journal's workflow. Or the manuscript can be revised by going back into the editorial workflow for decision. Some of our journals like to incorporate a rebuttal process, which can be done this way. Other journals like a two-tiered decision-making process in which the associate editor is brought back into the fold to help the editor-in-chief make a final decision on a paper. So whatever your workflow, BenchPress can be configured to match. We can also allow sites to add a BenchPress feature. So two of our more popular features are Portal and Export and Ingest. So Portal allows journals to move manuscripts to other journals on BenchPress. Our export and ingest process allows journals to move and receive manuscripts from vendors, from journals that are not on BenchPress, as well as other vendors, such as preprint archives or downstream services. So for example, if a journal wanted to welcome papers from preprint archives, we can arrange it so that those who post to preprint archives can simply click a button and it will move their paper from that preprint archive environment immediately into the workflow for the journal. We can also integrate external tools and services such as Publons for reviewer recognition, StatReviewer to help facilitate the statistical review process, and Dryad to allow for data deposit and review. But I think what we're best at is our custom development. We can design a custom solution that fits the exact specifications of the publisher. Some of these could be integrating with a member database, for example, if you wanted to identify those authors that are members versus those that are not members. We can also do that with reviewers. If you wanted to welcome abstract-only submissions to try to save editors and authors time, we can do that. We can incorporate visual abstracts in the submission process. And we can allow for collaborative peer review. The options are really unlimited. With BenchPress Unlimited, publishers are no longer forced to choose between simplicity and extensibility. That concludes the webinar. I'm now happy to take questions. So I'm just going to go over to the question pane. If you haven't already, please add your questions to the question pane in the WebEx widget. So the first question is, can journals not on the HighWire platform use BenchPress? And what effect does that have on the price? Yes, absolutely. Any journal can use the BenchPress system. You do not need to have your content hosted by HighWire, and we can arrange to send your content to compositors, proofreaders, copy editors, any downstream vendor that's required to get your content online quickly. Just looking to see if there are any other questions here. Do journals need to conform to a particular workflow? No, they don't. We spend a lot of time up front before configuration, making absolutely sure we are aware of all the requirements and specifications of the journal. We review their policies to make sure that all of the cues represent the critical path in their process. And with all of our configurations, reconfigurations, custom development, and new features, we have development sites for all of our publishers in which they can go in and test any changes that we've made to make absolutely sure they are right before they go live on the production site. We've got just about 2 more minutes here, so I'm just going to see if we have any other questions. Can the client get access to configuration settings once the site is set up? For some features, yes, but not for all features. There are some configurations that only BenchPress developers can execute. And the reason for that is because of how intimately tied each step is in a submission process. If you make a change in one place in a submission site, it has knock-on effects to other places in the site. And oftentimes developers have the best sight of what those knock-on effects might be. And they confer very closely with the publisher to make sure that they understand exactly the change that's being asked for. And our developers are quite good at coming back to our publishers and saying, I know that you want it done this way, but here's another way we might be able to do it that's faster or cheaper. Because most of our developers have actually built the site themselves, they are best positioned to help provide some of that guidance and advice. Do you have APIs? We don't have APIs yet. That is something we're working on with some of our partner publishers, and we hope to have something on our roadmap very soon. How does your ahead of print work? What version or format is published where? So we can allow for publish ahead of print, or if you want batch exports to a production management system, for example, we can do that as well. It really depends on the production management system you're using and how you want those papers to be sent. Do you want all the versions to be sent or just the most recent version? And how much of the article metadata do you want passed down downstream to that vendor? That's really up to the publisher, and they can decide depending on the requirements of their production management system. So how many journals currently use BenchPress? I believe we're at 41 at the moment, and 19 different publishers. So 41 journals across 19 different publishers. So it looks like that's the end of our questions. Thank you all very much for taking time out of your busy day and for joining today's webinar, and have a great day. I'm gonna just put up on the screen quickly contact details for those that are interested in more information, or if they'd like a deeper dive into the BenchPress system, we'd be very happy to set up a detailed demo. Thank you all for your time and have a great day.